Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead, and welcome to episode 251, Overwhelmed as an Academic Parent. This is an episode that I just wanted to make a very quick one during this week because we've heard from a number of academic parents who have reached out to us because everything's stacking up. The grading's stacking up, the writing projects are coming due. If you have school-age children, they're in activities. You might be managing some caregiving for somebody. You're getting sick. Everybody's telling us the holidays are right around the corner. So if you have school-age children where you celebrate some of those winter holidays or even babies, you may have just a lot happening. So I wanted to throw out four strategies that we're advising clients to look at, just to think through some things that you might be able to do to get out of the overwhelm. So the first one I want to point out is a post that I just read from Paulina Cassette. I will put a link to it in the show notes. I read it on LinkedIn, but she talks about how opting out is essentially always an option for academics. Sometimes you cannot do it once you get to a mid-career phase where you're trying to handle a marriage and your kids and your aging parents, and ultimately it is not possible to do it well or do it in a way that protects your physical and your mental health. And so a lot of people choose to do something else. So she's particularly talking about her business and how you can, do an alt act thing, and that's great. Certainly opting out is always an option. And one of the things that I try to think about is, well, what do you do if you want to stay in? Because certainly all of these things are falling on me right now. I have school age kids. I definitely have now some caregiving responsibilities for my father that require, 2 hours travel each way. And at least at the moment, it's multiple times a week. So I could be in the car as many as like 12 to 20 hours a week. We're all getting older. We can't sit at the desk maybe as long. We can't write as fast. Our brains are more foggy. There's just a lot of stuff going on. There might be some help. So I totally understand why people opt out, and that is always an option. But what I'm going to focus on in this episode is talking about a couple ways to find resources if you want to stay in to think about what to do. So one thing that we talked about in episode 245 was leaving margin. And that is basically when thinking about when you make a schedule, leaving just a little bit of space between activities. I know I have been extremely tempted to cram even more in. So I'll try to pay a bill at the stoplight and call the dentist while I'm driving to school pickup. And what happens is half the time I don't remember where I'm going, and I don't remember what errands I've already tackled. So I'm more and more convinced of the importance of just leaving a couple of extra minutes. Sometimes I'll leave as much as 30 minutes between activities, knowing I really don't have those 30 minutes to, for example, waste. But at least for me, it does allow me to have a little bit more mental clarity. So if you want to check out episode 245 on leaving margin, one of the best things I would argue if you're overwhelmed as an academic parent and you're trying to navigate, running to class and then getting to daycare or wherever your children are during the day, leaving margin might be one of those things where at the end of the day, you have to leave just 20 extra minutes to get, down the street for that 5-minute drive or 10-minute drive to your daycare because you just don't know what will happen with traffic, etc. And it just keeps building to a stress level because it's not sustainable. So one of the things I want to say in this particular episode is I know this academic career is not really sustainable with all the things at any given moment. It can be sustainable during portions of it, and it can be better in some that are a little bit more complex. But I know that having ultimate health and making sure that I'm doing all of the children's activities and then being a really great professor and running Defend, Publish, and Lead, I know that at any given moment, one of those things is going to get more of my attention than others. But leaving margin has allowed some of that clarity. Another thing that I started doing is looking at how are other people pulling this off, because I know for a fact that I know that there are full professor moms, and I am talking about moms right now that are at my work. There aren't many of them, but there are some. And so one of the things that I like to find out is how they are doing it. So you might find out if there's an affinity group for academic parents or, moms or dads in your discipline. I know we have one in my discipline of writing studies called Rec Comp Moms. And in fact, one of the things that I did as my last book was looking at how moms are actually pulling off time to write scholarship, because I know that they're pulling off time to to pick up a child from school, and I know that they're showing up to class. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the position that they have. But what I wanted to know was, well, how are they finding time to write articles when they're supposed to be in 15 places at once? Or how are they writing monographs? How are they becoming leaders in our discipline? So if you want to check out that book, it's called Productivity, Professionalism, and Parenting in Academia. It's through Routledge. I'll put the link in the show notes. But you don't have to read that book to find that out. I do show time use diaries, so you can see half hour by half hour how people are pulling this off. But you might be able to ask around in your own discipline and just find out. There might be a question and answer place, a troubleshooting place. You could start a group where you talk to other academic parents. Some universities are more friendly to this conversation than others, so you might have to stay a little underground as you talk about a few things, particularly if you're tenure track. I know we have a lot of clients that come to us especially for that reason, because they can't really talk about being an academic parent, but they really want to know from us how to go about doing some time management and getting some writing done. In that vein, we've done two episodes. One way back, episode 13, during the pandemic, like how to get some writing with kids, or writing done at home with kids. And also episode 229, we did one about summer planning. Both of these episodes, I realized we really need something that's more up to date. So we will get something either through podcast episode or webinar or both. So certainly you can listen to some of these episodes about strategies that other moms are using, but I would also encourage you to think through asking other academic moms that you know about some of the specific questions that you have. So I mentioned asking people in your discipline, but now might be the time to also ask people outside of your discipline. Nursing is one of those fields where they do manage to pull off a good bit of scholarly writing, and they've got really intense schedules. So I would consider doing that. And of course, you can always reach out to us at Defend, Publish, and Lead. We have plenty of academic mom coaches, myself included, and this is what we do. We pull off, the writing we have to do. So we're happy to help you do it as well. Happy writing this week.